You may have thought that it was silly that I was reading 2 literary prizes at the same time, but guess what? I'm doing 3. That's right, I am going to be reading the Carol Shields Shortlist. So I had heard of the Carol Shields Prize, but I didn't know exactly what books it was targeting or the dates around it, or that it was like new this year. But after looking into it more and like the types of books that are getting onto the list and everything, it just seems like an exciting prize that I want to be a part of. So the shortlist was announced today and I want to read all of the books that are on it, possibly do a little winner prediction. I don't know if that'll be in this video or in another video, and just join in on the excitement around it. First, I have to give a little shout out to Sell It On Books because they sent me an arc of Elsewhere. I was so excited that this got shortlisted purely because I own the book, and it meant that at least one of the books that I would be reading during this prize time would actually be coming from my physical TBR, which I have been neglecting. Don't worry, as soon as the prizes are over, I have many videos planned where I will be focusing on just those books back there and no new books. So yeah, very excited to read this one. I've also got What We Fed to the Manticore, I've got Brown Girls, and I've got The Sleeping Car Porter. So the one that I don't have, it's I think called When We Were Sisters, but that is in the mail from the library on its way to me. So I should be getting it in the next day or so. I don't even know where I want to start. I'm just excited. Oh, I didn't realize What We Do the Manticore is short stories. Also, I love that there's like short story collections represented. There was a graphic novel that was nominated for the prize. I'm so excited about this new prize. And I think that it's gonna be like a fun, fresh thing to do. It just seems like they're really aiming to uplift voices that are not as regularly published. And I'm super excited about it. Also, it's the US and Canada, and I feel like, I don't know why, but that makes me love it even more. I think maybe it's because I have followed some Canada prizes and I followed some US prizes, but I really like that this is both. Anyways, I'm going to figure out what I want to start first. So guess who put themselves in a reading slump shortly after I filmed the intro to this video? It's funny because at the end of the last video that I filmed right before this one, I don't know if it'll be the last video that comes out, but I filmed the end of my women's prize, my second vlog for that, and I said I'm gonna quit reading pods so that I don't put myself in a reading slump, but it turns out it was too late because I just went full reading slump. And then I ended up just kind of like mood reading, I guess, just reading like a really easy, cheesy book to get myself out of that. I'm not going to talk about what book it is because I'm planning a whole video and it's from a series and it's going to take me forever to like get through it and do that video, and so I'm not like 1000% sure it's going to happen, so I don't want to like say anything about it just in case that doesn't end up happening. So I think that got me back on track, and I read What We Fed to the Manticore, which I have with me. So I actually finished this before I went into the reading slump. I think it's really good. I totally see why I was shortlisted. So now I'm trying to remember what my favorite stories were. I loved the first one, The Good Donkey. It's about this donkey that's raised by this man but then put into a zoo. He's like painted as a zebra, put into a zoo. Then he starts meeting like other animals that are different than him, and at first he like doesn't accept them very much. So I feel like there's like a lot of allegories there, but then also there's like a war going on outside of that and like around that, and so there's obviously like a lot more complexity going on. The titular short story, What We Fed to the Manticore, was pretty good. Oh, you know which one was incredible? The Dog Star Is the Brightest Star in the Sky. That one was, it kind of like messed with your brain a little bit, the timeline or like memory maybe. I think it could have been taken a few different ways, and I love short stories that are like that. So overall, I think that this short story collection did a great job of having stories that conveyed different points or expounded more on the same points, but also had a running theme throughout in that they were all told from the perspectives of animals, and it wasn't necessarily that meant that humans weren't involved, but it was almost fully animals and their feelings and their thoughts and the way that they looked at the world, but it was in this like surrealist world where somebody could paint a donkey to look like a zebra and other people would believe that it was a zebra. Anyways, the next book I'm going to get into is The Sleeping Car Porter. I've only read like a couple pages, but I really like the writing style so far. I'm dying a little bit, but I also I'm recording both on my phone and on my camera because I just went for a run, and so I need the AC directly on me, and I feel like that's not great for audio, so now I'm
recording in two places, probably bad audio. But I knew I was doing this run today and that I would probably be waiting for people to finish up their run, not because I'm fast, but because I did not go as far. This was my first time doing a morning run with these people since like January. That can't be right, but that might be right. But yeah, so they're running like 8 miles and I ran 4 miles. But yeah, that's all to say, I knew I'd finish before them and I wanted to bring a book to read. And then I thought, well, maybe I could just also do my update for the Sleeping Car Porter because I finished it now. This one was so like atmospheric and there was something that I really enjoyed about reading it, but I don't know how much it has past that. There is something really challenging about reading about somebody who's super tired the entire book. That's something that I don't really love in thrillers, but is often a trope, just because that can like lead to an unreliable narrator or something like that. Like, oh, she doesn't know what she saw, she was tired or something. Or people not being able to like rely on their own image of things. And I mean, definitely Baxter, the sleeping car porter, has that in this book, in that he like hallucinates, but obviously it's not a thriller. Basically, it's about Baxter who is saving up for dentistry school and he's really close to getting enough money, but he's a porter on this sleeping car, obviously. And he has to deal with not being treated super well by most people that go on the train. And it feels like people are kind of just like toying with the amount of money that they'll pay him and stuff. And it's just, it's kind of like hard to read in that aspect, but oddly hearing him just talk about like the job that he's doing is really like soothing somehow. But also it did make me want to sleep a lot of the time because of how tired he was and how much he would talk about how tired he was. Also, he's attracted to other men and I feel like that kind of complicates things, especially because he like finds this postcard that he could get fired for even having on him, and then just like the knowledge that you carry about him holding that it makes it really tough. Just the fact that you know he has it, you're like, oh, I hope nobody finds out about this. But yeah, overall I really liked it. It felt kind of aimless, like there wasn't any particular plot, but I was pretty invested. So I don't know, my feelings about this one are very complicated. Sorry I'm squinting so much, I'm starting to like stare into the sun. So now I'm gonna go ahead and get started on my next book, which is When We Were Sisters.
I've just eaten entirely too much food. But I wanted to do an update because I've now read 2 more books from the Carol Shields shortlist. I intended on updating you after every book I read, but I finished When We Were Sisters and then I just started elsewhere and then just like finished it right away. But to start with When We Were Sisters, this is a really good book. This is based off of 3 sisters, Noreen, Aisha, and I don't remember the last one's name, which is silly because that's the main character. Although she does say her own name like the least amount. I guess that makes sense. But I know the other 2 sisters' names more since we're from her perspective, the youngest sister's perspective. But anyways, their parents both pass away. Their mom when the youngest daughter is at a very young age, and then the dad a bit later, so they have more memories of their father, and he was a really great man. But their mother's brother ends up taking them in, and he's not the best parental figure. He won't like officially adopt them because if they're considered orphans, then he gets money until they're like 18 or something. So he wants them to stay classified as being orphans. He also has them living basically on their own. He does have like some good insights at certain points, but for the most part, like he's just not great. I do really appreciate how his character is not like all evil or all bad. Like there are glimmers of this like niceness to him, or short bits where you're like, oh, maybe he does care, like at least a little bit. And I think that a lot of books tend to paint certain characters as being like all one way or all another way. And it was kind of nice that he was a bit more complex to that. And also you get to learn a little bit more about his backstory further into the book. But for the most part, it is about these 3 sisters and told from the youngest sister's perspective. And really, they are not just sisters to each other. They are their entire family, their brothers, their mothers. They oftentimes talk about how much easier it would be if they were men. They are Muslim in America, and people are saying, you know, oh, if they were boys, then maybe people would be quicker to take them in, but because they're girls, then they're just a burden. and just finding someone for them to marry is a burden on whoever would take them in. Overall, really well written. It did such a good job of showing each of the sisters' relationships with each other. Like, it wasn't just kind of like these three sisters as a group and their relationship, but the youngest sister had a different relationship with Noreen, the oldest, versus the middle sister, Aisha. And Aisha and Noreen had a different relationship to that. So each pairing of them felt like it had this own uniqueness to it that was separate from how they felt as a full group of three. And I love when a book can do that, when it can show the relationships between characters as being different and you understand each of them, and it makes each of the moments much more realistic and engrossing to read. And then we have Elsewhere. So this is a book that was actually already on my TBR. I had gotten an ARC copy, an advanced reader copy from Celadon Books a while back, and I just hadn't read it yet. And now I'm so glad that I have. Also, mine came with like a little map insert almost. And I was just curious if you have like the actual book, if yours came with a map printed on the page or not. So this book is set in this small village where the people there are very much secluded from everybody else. But there's something unique about this town in that all of the women, when they have a child, there is a possibility that they will disappear. This is something that is known by everyone, but it's almost seen as this beautiful thing, in that motherhood is even more of a sacrifice when there's a possibility that once you have the child, you might just disappear. And so the women kind of obsessively think about the signs that could lead to somebody disappearing, that could have meant that somebody that is now gone has disappeared, like why they've disappeared. So once a disappearance happens, they start going back and thinking, oh, there must have been signs that show why this person disappeared, that showed she was about to go. And typically they'll end up figuring something out. Somebody will remember some conversation or some instance that will be a sign for why that person is no longer there, why they've disappeared. And everybody will accept that, and it'll even get to the point where they'll say like, oh, I knew before she disappeared that she was going to. I had this feeling, or because there was these signs, I kind of thought that maybe. And there's this psychological phenomenon with humans, I can't remember the name of it, but I'll try to find it and put it on the screen, where basically humans will, once something's happened, they will kind of go back and think about their life as if that thing was always going to happen. And, you know, all of these steps along the way were leading them to that specific outcome. It's really like a fascinating topic in general, but I like how this book specifically approaches it. Let me show you what I'm looking at right now because it's getting so hard to concentrate. Look at this face. Look at him. Oh no. Oh my gosh, he's going nuts. No, don't bite on that. So yeah, I thought that this book was absolutely phenomenal. There's even more themes that I didn't really touch on, this idea of perception and them being really into what outsiders thought of them. Like if somebody from elsewhere came to their village, then it was all about what they thought of them and knowing that they thought that this village was beautiful and all of this. But not so much caring about where that person was from and what elsewhere was like, or really anything about that person at all. Not what their job was, not why they're here. Like they don't really care about any of that. They just want to know what they think of where they are of that village. Overall, this book was like the perfect combination of being a page turner, but also being really thought-provoking. And I'm really happy that I finally got a chance to read this one, and I'm really, really happy that I just got Saint X, which is also by Alexis Schaitkin. I actually should have a haul video coming out soon-ish, which will be me talking about the shopping trip in which I got that book. But I'm so excited to read more by her now. I absolutely love this book, and it's like perfectly up my alley. Anyways, I'm now going to read Brown Girls and hopefully finish up this short list and get this video out before the winner is announced. I only have a few days left. Wish me luck. I mean, you know by now if I've done it or not, but wish me luck all the same. I have finished Brown Girls and therefore have finished the Carol Shields shortlist, which yay. The sad thing is I didn't love this book. It's not to say that this isn't a good book, it's just it was not hitting right for me. Okay, so the purpose of it is basically you're hearing from many people all at once, like this all-encompassing idea of brown girls, specifically brown girls in New York City. But it's told as like us and we as a collective. It includes a lot of different experiences and commonalities within this group of people. But then what made it difficult was just that you never really connected with one character, one person, because it's not about a person, it's about a collective. And so it made it more difficult to really get into it, and it made the story feel really disjointed. And while I think that that can work in some instances, in this one, it just didn't work for me personally. I do still think that there are great ideas and great passages. I think that as an idea, as a concept, and in segments, it works really well. As a novel, it just doesn't. Anyways, with that, it is time to rank these books and also to say what my prediction is for the winner. It's going to be announced in mere days from now, so I'm going to really have to get on it with editing. So I think that I'll start with rankings, and just to let you know, this is my personal rankings, how I felt about the books. The top of this is not necessarily going to be my predicted winner. I haven't actually decided what my predicted winner is yet. It's hard because this is the first year that this prize has been happening. So anyways, I think that it's probably pretty clear at this point that Brown Girls is going to be last for me. Then next, I think I'm gonna put The Sleeping Car Porter, which I did like. I still don't even, I can't I can't quite explain my feelings about this. I loved the vibes. There was a lot that I really enjoyed about this, but like as a whole, it also still fell apart. So I guess this is kind of in the same camp, but I enjoyed the process of reading it a little bit more than Brown Girls. Oh boy, and here's where it gets tough. I think next I'm gonna put What We Fed to the Manticore. It's tough because some of the stories I really loved, but some of them I didn't care quite as much about, so I feel like this makes sense as a third. Yeah, actually, the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, yeah, obviously. And then next would be When We Were Sisters, which was just a fantastic book. So well written, so good. And then I feel like this won't be a surprise. Elsewhere is top for me. This is like a new favorite of mine. Okay, and then which book do I think is going to win the prize? I think I'm gonna go with When We Were Sisters. I just think that the writing was so beautiful. Basically, I think out of all of these, I see this one the most being an award winner, so I'm gonna choose this one. So we did it. That's the Carol Shields prize. I can't wait to find out what the actual winner is this week, but now I really have to go because I have to read the Women's Prize shortlist. So subscribe to my channel if you want to see basically this video, but for the Women's Prize. Anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you are following the prize and which book you've liked the most, / which book you want to win or predict to win. I definitely think I'll be following this prize again next year. I just love the idea of it, and I like how many different styles of books are included in this one. Anyways, that's gonna do it for this video, but I will see you soon with another. Bye.